Good morning, children. Welcome back to the social session. Children, for the past few days we have been learning about the agriculture in India, and yesterday under the importance of agriculture we tried to understand the development of Indian agriculture in three phases. The first phase we have classified it as from 1950 to 1965, where the construction of the big projects have taken up by the government of India after independence. And second phase is from 1966 to 1990, which we consider it as a green revolution and its spread. So today we shall learn about the second phase of the agricultural development in the country. It's from 1965 to 1990. The agriculture has underwent a revolutionary change during this period after the irrigational facilities were introduced by the government. The government also introduced the new kind of seeds to the Indian soil, which were invented in various agricultural research institutions in India as well as other countries. And this marked the second phase of agricultural development. The introduction of new seeds which were invented by the Agricultural Research Institute across the world were introduced to the Indian soil. That is the second phase of the Indian agriculture development. And these new seeds are known as HYV. That is nothing but high yielding varieties. High yielding varieties. What are these high yielding varieties? For example, the old seed, if it gives 10 bags of paddy per 1 acre, now this variety will give you a high yield. That means you will get 20 bags of paddy per same 1 acre of land. The yield increased or not? This is the yield. Productivity. Yield is nothing but the final productivity. So that gets high. So that kind of variety of seeds were introduced, which marked the second stage or second phase of the Indian development. And it was also accompanied by the usage of the chemical fertilizers, pesticides in order to control the pest on the soil. And a variety of cooperative banks were set up in the rural areas to provide the credit also to farmers, because farmers don't have a mechanism of taking the loan or taking the lending the money. Mechanism was not there in the rural areas. Most of them were dependent upon informal sources. So credit, in order to increase the credit among the rural people, they have introduced many cooperative societies, and rural banks were also established, so that they can purchase the raw materials and seeds and fertilizers, pesticides and machinery for modern farming. These all things can be purchased by them, and their yield also gets increased with these new things. If you look at the agriculture in the dry land areas, children, a little over 40% of the total cultivable land in India is irrigated. Just above 40% of the land in India is irrigated, but the remaining 60% is still dependent upon the rainfall. That means it is rain fed, either by the well irrigation or by the other sources, not by the canal but by other sources. This percentage of the land is dependent. Maximum this percentage can go up to maximum of 55%, that is irrigational facilities. The remaining 45% of the land is rain fed, and it is very difficult and expensive to go for cultivation in these areas. They mostly depend solely on rainfall, and these lands are called as the dry lands of the country. And agriculture in these dry lands is not that easy. Some of the main crops grown in these areas are jawar, bajra, groundnut, ragi, cotton, soybean, red gram and Bengal gram. These are the crops mostly grown in the dry area regions of the country. Dry land areas are most suitable for certain crops. For example, 85% of the pulses grown in the entire country are from these areas only. That means pulses are mostly grown in the dry area region. However, the production of the pulses is not increasing these days, and they are becoming more and more expensive for cultivation also. So what should be done to increase the production in such a dry land areas? Unlike the cultivation of HYV seeds in irrigated lands, dry land farming possesses different challenges. Conserving the rainfall, and in the areas which receive very little rainfall is the first step. That means the rainwater should be harvested, should be stored underground, and it should be used for agriculture. There are several ways in which people can stop rainwater from quickly running off from the surface. They can conserve the water so that it can soak into the ground and recharge the groundwater, and the wells, the groundwater level also increases in the well. This is done through the watershed development programs in these dry regions by afforestation, by building check dams, and also by constructing the tanks. Generally in Telangana region you find the tank cultivation or chain linked tank cultivation. Mission Kakatiya is one such program taken up by the government of Telangana in order to rebuild these tanks. And through the Kakatiya's time we have these tanks cultivation. Even we fall under the dry region, children. So fertility of the soil needs to be raised by adding organic material like the compost and manure has to be added to these soils in order to increase the nutrient levels in this soil. Then the yield can be increased. Farmers who grow crops like Bengal gram, red gram, jowar, bajra, ragi, soybean, groundnut and cotton also need this support. They may need new varieties of seeds. You know, BT cotton seed has been newly introduced, so that which is suitable for the different regions and different climatic conditions. The such kind of seed has to be developed. Knowledge about the best ways of mixing the crop on the same land or growing of the crops, different crops on the same land, that knowledge is also required. The mixed cultivation, loans to purchase the inputs, support prices for these crops in the market also should be given, so that the farming of the HYV has now been adopted in the dry regions too, but yield has to be improved and there are many challenges to be faced in this dry region. If you look at the effects of the green revolution in the country, children, there was an increase in the production. The spread of the HYV to the large parts of the country from 1966 to 1990 has made most of the forest land was also brought under the agriculture, and newer crops has left a significant increase in the crop production in the country. India has become self-sufficient in food grains. You have seen after independence also for few years when there was drought, we had imported food grains, but after the green revolution India has attained self-sufficiency. That means the food which is required for the country can be produced within the country. To such level India has grown, and due to rise in the food production, India, it was no longer necessary to import the food grains from other countries. Today food materials constitute about 3% of the India's imports. If you look at the diagram, bar diagram given in the textbook, you can easily understand that the production of the food grains has increased 5 times over the last 5 decades. It was 51 million tons in 1950-51, which has increased to 242 million tons by 1990-91. That means in these 5 decades, in these 50 years, we have almost increased 5 times. And a large stock of food grains are kept as a buffer stock with the government, that is through the FCI, Food Corporation of India, in order to see that there is no shortage of the food. And during the recent lockdown also, government has distributed freely the food, the rice or the wheat was distributed freely to the needy people. And it can also avoid the situations of drought and famine in different parts of the country. The procurement of food grains also used to supply food grains in inaccessible areas where food is not available. In the year 1967, the food grain stock with the government was only 19 lakh tons, and by the year 2010-2011 it has increased to 220 lakh tons. But 1/10 of the food grains produced in the country. That means about 1/10 of the food grains produced in the country, 220 tons are being kept with the government as a stock, as a reserve stock. Green revolution helped the farmers to produce higher quantities of food grains and non-food grains on the same plot of land, and there was no major increase in the land used for cultivation. In 1960s, the farmers was able to produce an average of only 287 kilograms of food grains, be it paddy or wheat, on 1 acre of cultivable land. Today, the same farmer can able to produce 800 kilograms of food grains or non-food grains per 1 acre of same land. There are many environmental effects also because of the excessive usage of fertilizers and pesticides on the land. That is also another impact of the green revolution. Has brought several environmental imbalances. As mentioned earlier, it was first introduced in the northern states of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, and in the parts of Uttar Pradesh. We shall study about its environmental effects faced by these areas in the next class, children. Until then, Take care and write about the green revolution. Thank you.